Turn up the volume nice and loud, cause we are controlling transmission with dance beats and R&B. You're in the mix with Lil Drummer Girl with your host, Dawn Marie. In the mix.
Welcome, my drumsters, back to another episode of The Little Drummer Girl. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our topic today is going to be, let's say your significant other makes the plans all the time, or they don't make the plans and you're the one who's making the plans all the time. It's hard when you're doing all the work yourself, or on the other hand, if you're waiting for someone else to do it for you. So my challenge for you today is to get a piece of paper, sit down in quiet. If you can sit outside in nature, it's even more important to do it that way, I find, because there's nothing like seeing beauty, whether it's trees or water or something that's of nature that's really pretty to look at. It could be a mountain, it could be wherever it may be your favorite space is to go and kind of be alone with your thoughts. I'd like you to find that spot and grab a piece of paper and a notebook and a pen and write down like 10 to 15 or 20 different things that you would do in your life if you knew that you wouldn't fail or that you didn't have any worries about not having the money to do that thing. And just write them out. And nothing is too big or too small to put on this list. Think about 15 to 20 things that you've always wanted to do that you never did. Don't think about the money. Don't think about how you're going to do it. Just think about the things you would like to see happen and write it down. Once you have your list, a few days later, I'd like you to go back to that list and then look at it again and say to yourself, what can I do to get myself closer to reaching that thing? And then on another sheet of paper, write down some steps that you feel that you could immediately start doing today to get the ball rolling. Because you know what happens once you start an action, momentum picks up and things go in motion, right? And the next thing you know, you are accomplishing that thing on that list and getting exactly what it is you're looking for. So for instance, let's say you want to take a trip to Portugal. So write down you want to go to Portugal, right? And then start to think, do you know anybody from Portugal? Have you ever met anybody that lives near you that you're friends with, or know somebody who is friends with somebody who's from Portugal? If you do, write it down. And then maybe make a phone call, make a conversation, or say, hey, can I talk to you about Portugal? You know, I'm thinking about going there and I'd like to pick your brain. Because you know what? When you talk to the people who are from a specific place, they can give you that inside information that you need. Because maybe they can say, you know what? Oh yeah, you're looking to go stay at this place, or a hostel that you know is very clean and very well maintained and you can feel safe there. I've stayed in hostels through Europe and I've had some really great experiences. Now, some of them, like in Ireland, I had my own shower and bathroom in my room and it was very easy to live in it. I mean, it was a small room, but I didn't really need much because I wasn't going to be home very much. And it only cost $50 a night as compared to a hotel that could be $200, $300, $400, $500 a night, depending where you are. Anyhow, back to your list. Think about some other things. Okay, maybe you go to the library and you start pulling out resources, the free resources from the library. And if you don't have your library card, please get it. It's free, Free. And you can get everything you need from books, CDs, DVDs, MP3s, books that you can download immediately on Hoopla and listen to books on audio. That's something I do. I probably listen to about 80 books a year on audio, and they've been instrumental in helping me in every aspect of my life, whether it was personal or in business. The other thing is get that list going, right? So pick up the books, you pick up some magazines, then create a vision board. And if you don't know what a vision board is, that's when you take images of the things that you desire and you want, and you put them together on this big board and you paste them in there. I'm going to be holding a vision board workshop. So if you're interested, please stay tuned and subscribe so that you can learn more information about it. It's going to happen soon. So if you're interested, it's really going to be a great way for you to get clear on the things that you want and help you get there. Because the law of attraction, what happens is once you put it out to the universe that you intend to do something, your subconscious mind works. It's going to help you find it. So if you put that dream out that you want to go to Portugal and put a date next to it, let's say you want to go by June of 2021. Okay? That gives you a year from now to do that, to plan it, to start saving for it. And even if you can't make it in June, maybe you have to push it out to December and you go in the wintertime when the rates are lower. You know, if you go to Europe in the winter, I remember one time it was 1989 and to look, and like Continental Airlines had a round trip airfare from New York to Paris for $99. And I just thought to myself, well, hell, if I stay home in New York City, I'm going to spend more than that over the weekend. Why not go to Paris? And so I jumped on a Friday night plane, got there Saturday morning, and then was back on a overnight red-eye flight on Sunday night, got into JFK at like 8 in the morning and went right to work. Didn't sleep very much, but I had an awesome time. And now I could say I was in Paris for a weekend. But anyway, it was a great experience. But you couldn't find an airfare to, Colorado for $99 from New York. Anyway, you never know. These specials come up. So if you go to smartertravel.com, if you're interested in learning like last minute travel, they always give like great fares for last minute travel. So if you have a flexible schedule and you can just kind of pick up and go when you can, that's a great place to find some fun travel. But back to your goal list here. And it's not just your goal list. You should have this list. This is going to make your life fulfilling. This is going to give you those memories in your life that when you look back, you can say, oh, I did these things, because there's nothing worse than having regret, right? Regret is something we cannot change. We can't change the past, but we can work on our futures. If we think about it and we act on it, we can actually create the life that we want. I remember I had a friend back in the 80s that I used to date, and he said to me, he was like an atheist. He didn't believe in God, and he said, you create your own destiny. And I still believed in God, and I still thought, you know what? I feel like God has a lot to do with shaping our life, but I really do feel like we have the free will to create the life that we want. And that's why he gave us free will, right? So that we can do the things that we want if we make smart choices. Because I know in my teens, I made a lot of bad choices. I hung out with the wrong crowds. Even though I had an amazing life, I still stayed out till freaking all night long. Once I hit 18, for like a 4-year period of my life, I was pretty reckless. And then my mom passed away, and that changed my life. And then my dad passed on, and that changed my life. So all of these things happening in a young age really helped keep me on the straight and narrow path, and it really straightened me out. And yes, I'd like to go out, and yes, I'd love to go dancing, and yes, I'd love to go to the nightclubs, and yes, I'd love to go listen to bands. And I do love to have a very full life, because I feel like life is to be enjoyed. And that's what this episode I'm trying to reiterate to you guys, that I just want to kind of shake you up and say, hey, bad things happen all the time, and anything can happen at a moment's notice. And we get illnesses, we get struck by cars or accidents, and it's always accidents that seem to hurt us the most. So I just want you to really feel like you're not wasting your time, and that you're not floundering around, and that every day you're not just waiting for something to happen, that you actually start to create the things to make it happen. It may sound easier said than done, but in all actuality, it really is that easy. It is that simple. Because once you make up your mind to do it, that's when it happens. If you don't decide, then someone else is going to decide it for you. And the worst thing that can happen is that you don't make a decision at all, and then nothing happens. But even if you step out and maybe you make a decision and it's not the right decision, at least you made a decision, and who knows? That one thing can teach you something else for another aspect of your life that you didn't see happening, but it wasn't until you stepped out to take that chance on something to find out, okay, that wasn't right, let me move on. Like when I started getting into the image consulting and the styling business, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with it. Like I knew I wanted to help men and women look good and feel good, because I knew my self-esteem was in the crapper. And, after being hit by 3 different cars and falling in a sinkhole, everything kind of just kept spiraling out of control. And I felt more and more like bad about myself. Like, I'm broken. I'm broke financially. I have all these different things going on, and I was depressed. I lost my family, and I was an orphan at age 27. So all these things started to happen, but I knew like I had to stay strong, and I had to keep fighting that good fight. I had to keep moving ahead and forging ahead, because I remember my dad's words. He gave me this little like Hallmark poetry card, a laminated thing that I still have to this day. And it was about not giving up, never giving up. And he'd always say, never give up. Don't give up. And Lord knows, I wanted to throw in the towel many, 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 many times. And I just kept saying, no, listen to my dad. Don't give up. Keep going. This too shall pass. You will get through. But the point is going through that thing. It's getting through it and getting to the other side of it, because usually when we have our worst things happen to us, we get the best fruit from it. It changes us. It makes us better people, better human beings, maybe more compassionate, maybe more sympathetic. I know when I was a teenager, I was quite selfish because it was me, 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 me. I mean, I cared about my parents and my family, but, other than that, it was just like me, 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 me. And then I realized, this is not the way to live. And I'm very generous. I always was generous. My parents brought us up to be very generous and not be stingy and share what we have. So I was always a giver, but it became to a fault that I was giving too much. And I was giving. And then I would feel resentful because that person took advantage of me because I gave. But basically, it was my fault because they didn't ask for it. I just gave it away. I said, here, take this, take that. So I had to learn to set up some boundaries. And that's a whole nother topic of discussion that I will get into on boundaries, because if we don't set the boundaries for ourselves, then again, our time will be wasted. We don't get to do the things we need to do. We will get distracted and not get to do the things that we want to do. And so many other things happen when we don't set up our boundaries, right? We may feel used and taken for granted and shat upon and all that stuff, right? So I don't want this to go off on a tangent, but, I just want you to really try to get clear on some of those things that maybe you've always wanted to do. Now's the time to bring them out, dust them off, and get it started, because life is too short, and I want you to live your most fulfilled and happy life, so that you can go to sleep at night and say, wow, I feel tired, but I feel really productive. I got all these things done. And every week that you can think about the things that you're doing. And one of the things that I just learned of Brendan Burchard the other day. He's one of my coaches that I've been studying from for quite a while now. And he talked about, having not just your yearly goals, but to break them down into monthly goals and quarterly goals and daily goals and weekly goals, so that every day of the week, you know what you have to do, so that you will get that much closer to the thing you're looking to do, whether it's travel, find your new love of your life, or find a new career, or maybe you want to start a family. But everything takes planning and everything takes time. Don't expect things to happen overnight, because these things take time. Now, some things you might be able to get overnight. You want a certain dress? Oh, you go to a store and there it is. You found your dress. But there's other things that take much longer to, kind of come to fruition. When I started making my handbags back in I'd say that was probably in early 2000s, I was making these, handbags with silk flowers, and I would sell one here, two there. It was slow and steady kind of a thing. And then all of a sudden, one time I was working at Clinique at the office, and I got 13 orders because I wore one to work that day, and everybody loved it and they were ordering. And then I had 13 orders. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to make 13 bags in 2 weeks. And, some of them would have 100 flowers that were glued on there, and it would just take a while to make. So it wasn't you could do it in 5 minutes and be done with it. I was thrilled to have the orders, but again, I had to give up everything else that I had planned, because now I had these orders and I didn't have anybody doing them for me but myself. So now I had to sit down and, work on that. But it felt great to have the orders, but it took time. I would do shows and everybody loved them, but then they weren't selling. And I'm thinking, okay, I just spent all this money to be in this show, and now what? They didn't buy anything. I just lost money. I'm paying for the show, paying for the travel, paying for the gas, paying for the staying overnight, and all that stuff. So sometimes you do have to take a loss to find a win. But the thing is, if you stick with it, I didn't give up and say, you know what, these bags aren't going to sell. I'm going to throw in the towel. I wind up, working with them for about 13 years. And then my hands just don't want to work with that anymore. So I just kind of gave it up. If I could hire people to do them for me, I would do it in a flash if I had the funds to do that. But I don't right now. So I will just put that on the back burner. And one day, if and when I can revive it, I will. But my point is this. I had the dream to do it. I did it. I felt accomplished. They were in the newspapers, they were fun bags and people loved them. So I felt like, okay, I wasn't on a bad path. I wasn't on the wrong path. Also, floral things weren't that big at the time. And then all of a sudden now they're huge, right? So timing's an issue. So again, if you had something in the past, that now's the time to just bring it back to life. Maybe it goes in a different direction, but either way you slice it, who knows what you can do with it. So create the life you want. And I think putting it down with pen and paper can really crystallize those thoughts into realities. All right, my drumsters. That's all I'm going to leave you with. This is just a quickie to say hello, to let you guys know I am thinking about you. Remember, it's never too late to live the life of your dreams and leave it trailblazing behind you. So rock on and rock out, and I'll catch you on the flip side.